Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a really fascinating stack of sources, ones that promise to unlock a unique kind of mind control. But don't worry, we're not talking about, movie stuff here. This is far more personal and actually profoundly empowering. Our mission today is basically to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from these materials. Give you a shortcut, really, to understanding how your own mind works and how to navigate your emotions, maybe even how to effectively influence the world around you.
Exactly. We're looking at insights that are, well, designed to help you become a more effective communicator, maybe convince people a bit more easily, and ultimately gain a powerful sense of agency over your own thoughts, your own actions. It's really about shifting your internal landscape to create, real external results.
Okay, so get ready. We're going to unpack some surprising facts, some practical techniques that might just change how you think about, well, thinking itself. Let's jump right in then. Our main source today is an excerpt from a book called The Real Mind Control, a book that will make you understand neuro-linguistic programming. That title alone is quite a hook. So what exactly is neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, like at its core?
Well, fundamentally, NLP is about understanding the connection, the link between how our minds work and how language shapes our thoughts and our behaviors.
Yeah.
The founders, they theorized that really successful people, it didn't matter about their education or background, they had a kind of secret. And that secret was the quality of their communication with themselves and with others. So NLP aimed to, find these common threads, condense the patterns, and then share them so others could sort of simulate that success.
Okay, so it's less about manipulating others then, and more about recognizing patterns in communication and thought. The source suggests it helps you see more ways to answer problems, not just get stuck on what you think is the only way. That's quite powerful itself.
Precisely. Yeah, it emphasizes that problems often have multiple answers, variable answers. NLP focuses on finding solutions rather than just endlessly analyzing causes. It's about adding choices to your toolkit, never taking them away. And this fits right in with core NLP ideas like the mind and body being one system, or that every behavior has a structure you can understand, or even the idea that if one person can do something, well, potentially anyone can if they learn that structure.
Interesting. You mentioned something earlier about representational systems affecting behavior. Can you just quickly clarify what those are?
Sure. Yeah, representational systems are basically how we internally process information. Do we think mostly in pictures, which is visual, or in sounds, auditory, or feelings and physical sensations, which is kinesthetic? Understanding your own main system and learning to recognize it in others, well, it helps you tailor how you communicate. You speak their language, literally how they represent the world in their head.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. So let's get practical. Let's unpack some of the tools NLP offers for changing from within. The source really emphasizes that the most important reward of NLP is that you are able to change from within. How does it actually help with that?
Well, a key concept here is organizing your thoughts, feelings, ideas, making your brain more efficient, basically. The source uses that phrase, a cluttered mind is the devil's workshop. So programming in this sense helps by compartmentalizing, categorizing information you've stored, like creating mental filing cabinets so retrieval is faster, clearer.
Okay, one technique mentioned is anchoring. How do you actually set an anchor? And, are there common mistakes people make?
Right, anchoring. To set one, you pick a specific memory that reliably triggers a really strong desired emotion, let's say confidence. Then, right at the peak of feeling that confidence, you associate a unique physical trigger, maybe touching your thumb and forefinger together, something distinct. The key is repetition. You do this multiple times, linking the feeling and the trigger, training your mind to call up that feeling faster when you use the anchor, a common pitfall. Trying to set it when the emotion isn't intense enough, or using a trigger that's too common, not unique. You need that strong, specific link.
That's really practical. Okay, what about the swish pattern? That sounds dynamic.
It is. The swish pattern is a very visual technique. You essentially rapidly shift your mind's eye back and forth between a bad image or memory that brings up a feeling you don't want and a really powerful positive image linked to a feeling you do want. The idea is the positive image effectively swishes and pushes out or overlaps the negative one. Over time, it diminishes the negative feeling's punch. Like if you get anxious before speaking, you could quickly swish that thought away for a vivid memory of a past success maybe until the good feeling takes over.
And reframing. That sounds like a really valuable way to shift perspective. We all get stuck on negative memories sometimes.
Absolutely. Reframing is consciously changing how you look at a memory or situation. Instead of dwelling on the negative, it helps you find a more empowering or constructive angle. The source used the example of a disastrous interview. Instead of just frustration, you reframe it as, okay, what did I learn? What good can I get from this, even though it felt bad at the time?
Right, finding the lesson.
Oh.
Okay, and finally, loop break.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that, especially for negative thought spirals.
Loop break is just what it sounds like. Consciously interrupting an unconscious, often negative pattern, like that automatic flash of anger or fear or anxiety. So instead of just reacting, shouting and the car breaks down or getting instantly frustrated with a colleague, you consciously block that impulse. You stop the loop, and then you try to channel that energy somewhere more useful, like problem solving. Now, the source does point out, while NLP can bring results relatively quickly compared to some things, it's not magic. It's not an instant fix. It takes basic repetitive practice to really build these new mental habits. You have to work at it a bit.
Okay, so these techniques help manage our internal world, our reactions. But how does NLP connect to how we interact with other people, building relationships?
That leads us perfectly into the 4 pillars of NLP. The first one is rapport. Building rapport is just fundamental for any positive interaction, personal or professional. And the core idea here is actually quite profound. It says the meaning of communication is the reaction one gets regardless of the purpose. Basically, what your communication means isn't just what you intended, it's the response you actually elicit in the other person.
Wow, okay. That shifts the responsibility, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So what skills does the source say help build that deep rapport?
It highlights things like inquiring genuinely, really listening actively, organizing your thoughts clearly before you speak, maybe even doing a little research on the other person's viewpoint, and developing a positive attitude, one of genuine curiosity. And then there's specific technique, matching and mirroring.
Matching and mirroring. That sounds potentially awkward, like copying someone. How does that work without seeming, well, fake?
It's definitely not about being a robot or overtly copying. It's much, much subtler than that. This is where the neuro part really kicks in socially. It's about becoming highly attuned to the other person. So beyond just their words, you subtly match or mirror aspects of their physiology, their posture, maybe their gestures, facial expressions, even things like their tone of voice, the speed they talk at, or their breathing rhythm. When it's done subtly and genuinely, it sends an unconscious signal, hey, I'm like you, I get you. And that builds trust and connection very quickly.
Okay, I can see how that would work if it's subtle.
Right.
And this must connect directly to sensory acuity, right?
Yeah.
The second pillar. You need to notice these things first.
Exactly. Sensory acuity is your ability to notice the fine details, to differentiate sensory information. It's the bedrock of great communication. Our source points out that famous or maybe infamous statistics, spoken words, are only 7% of communication. Tone of voice is 38%. And physiology body language is a massive 55%.
55%, that's huge.
It really is. It means you absolutely have to pay attention to the nonverbal cues to see if someone's words and their body language are actually telling the same story. Are they congruent?
That 55% is really eye-opening. The source gives this interesting exercise, too, about changing your emotional response to something just by mentally adding a different soundtrack to the memory. It really drives home how powerful our senses are, even imagined ones.
It's a great illustration, isn't it? Shows how tightly linked the mind and body are, how sensory input, even just recalled in your mind, can completely shift your emotional state about a past event. You mentally play different music over a memory, and your feeling about that memory can change. It shows we have more control over our internal responses than we often think.
Okay, so moving beyond the specific NLP techniques, our sources also talk a lot about just cultivating a generally positive mindset and how to deal with common negative emotions. The mindset source, for instance, challenges us to actively transform negative situations, like it says sanguine people do.
Right. And sanguine people are generally those optimistic, cheerful types who tend to see the good side. The key message isn't about trying to avoid negative people altogether, because that's often impossible, but about dealing with the negativity itself. There's a great quote in there. The people who are the hardest to love are the ones who need it the most. So strategies include trying to understand the person, staying objective, being a positive example yourself, and importantly, offering genuine appreciation when you can.
And when it comes to those really common negative emotions, the advice is quite direct. Let's touch on a couple. What about anger? Many of us struggle with that flash reaction.
Yeah, anger is a big one. The advice really centers on creating a pause, that moment between the trigger and your reaction. Consciously try to calm down, take some deep breaths, maybe reflect for a second on your behavior before you lash out. The goal is to find a healthier outlet, like talking it through with someone trusted, rather than resorting to outbursts or, worse, violence. It's about channeling that energy.
Okay, that makes sense. And fear, that can be so paralyzing, especially when it spirals into anxiety.
Fear is often tied up with anxiety and that feeling of not being able to focus. The sources suggest really practical steps, like actually write down your fears. Getting them out of your head and onto paper can sometimes shrink them. Talk to someone you trust. Take some kind of direct action, even a small step towards the thing you fear. Watch inspiring stuff like movies. And again, breathing exercises come up. They help regulate your body's physical fear response. The core idea is facing it, bit by bit, reduces its power over you.
And there's advice for sadness, envy, hatred, cowardice too. A common thread seems to be seeking emotional support.
Absolutely. That comes through really strongly. Having friends, family, people you trust, that emotional support system is presented as a powerful refuge. They can offer moral support, maybe some trustworthy advice, just help you navigate those difficult emotions and times. It's crucial.
It's also clear that our mental and emotional state isn't separate from our physical health. The sources really emphasize things like sleep, diet, exercise for the brain.
Oh, completely intertwined. Sleep, for instance, is just critical for memory. We start acquiring and consolidating information when we're awake, sure, but that consolidation process really gets strengthened during sleep. Skimp on sleep consistently, and you're likely hindering your judgment, your recall, everything cognitive.
Right. And the brain foods. Some interesting ones listed there.
Yeah, beyond just general healthy eating, certain foods seem particularly supportive for the brain. Fish rich in omega-3s, definitely. Avocados for healthy blood flow, berries are packed with antioxidants, whole grains for steady energy and B vitamins, nuts are great almonds linked to memory, walnuts for anti-inflammatory benefits, and even simple things like tea get a mention for boosting cognition, focus, and blood flow. So diet matters.
And beyond just eating right, how can we actively work on sharpening our memory?
Practice, basically. The sources treat memory like a skill. It improves the more you use it and the smarter you use it. They suggest developing your own strategies, like consciously linking new information to things you already know well. Makes it stickier. Regularly reviewing material is key, obviously. Actively using your brain keeps those neural pathways strong. And creating your own mnemonics, those little memory tricks, surprisingly effective for many people.
I love the point about social interaction and laughter being good for memory and cognition too. That feels less intuitive, but makes sense.
It's a great point. Being around people, especially people who make you laugh, actually helps lower stress hormones like cortisol. And chronic stress, high cortisol, can damage neurons over time. Laughter also boosts circulation, helps stabilize blood pressure. It all contributes to a healthier brain environment. And exercise, too, is framed as a natural antidepressant. Boosts mood, cuts stress, improves sleep, builds self-esteem. It's all connected.
Okay, so all these insights, managing emotions, NLP techniques, physical well-being, they seem to lead towards this idea of setting clear goals and influencing your world. The concept of outcome thinking sounds central here.
It really is. Outcome thinking is about shifting your focus. Instead of getting bogged down by the problem, you channel all your mental energy towards the change you want, the desired outcome. It's like you're systematically programming your mind, polishing your goals and strategies until you genuinely believe you can achieve it. A really popular tool for this, mentioned in the sources, is the SMART method, making sure goals are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed. It gives structure.
And public speaking, such a common fear, but presented here as a skill you can actually learn and refine, not just something you're born with or without.
Exactly. Not just for the naturals. The source quotes Benjamin Franklin, right? By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Preparation is everything, from structuring your talk, good intro, clear body, strong conclusion, to really thinking about your audience, personalizing the message for them.
And adding things like stories or humor to spice it up sounds like good advice for keeping people engaged.
Definitely. Stories make points memorable, they connect emotionally, and a bit of well-timed humor can keep people alert and receptive. But ultimately, communicating confidently, even if you're just starting out, involves playing with your voice, the tone, pitch, volume, speed. Variety keeps it interesting. The biggest takeaway message across all this, though, it really boils down to practice pays. As Emerson said, that which we persist in doing becomes easier. Not that the nature of the thing has changed, but that our power to do has increased. You build the skill through doing.
Wow. What an incredible deep dive. From those specific NLP tools like anchoring and reframing, all the way to managing emotions day to day, building relationships, even boosting memory through diet and sleep, the core message seems really clear and consistent.
It really is. It's fundamentally about gaining control over your own internal world, your emotions, your behaviors. And that is incredibly empowering. When you get a better handle on your inner state, you stabilize your whole life, really. You can manage setbacks better, see disappointments not as world-ending, but as challenges, opportunities to grow.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now?
It means you aren't just a product of your past. You're not stuck. You actually have the power right now to choose how past experiences affect you moving forward. It brings to mind that other great Emerson quote, "The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be."
So by consistently applying these ideas, focusing on your own growth, and really believing in your capacity to change, you genuinely can take the reins. You can control the direction of your life. It's a journey for sure, but the tools, as we discussed, are right here.